Now, live from UPN 31, this is Good Day Sacramento.
Hey, are you looking to buy a new home? If so, your credit score could really affect your mortgage rates big time. Dan, the mortgage man, is here in the studio this morning. He'll be answering questions about credit scores. So, if you have a question, email us, goodday@kmaxtv.com, and we will answer some of them in the 9 o'clock hour. Put something like credit scores in the topic line so we know we can separate the regular old emails.
Got a couple good ones in too already.
Okay.
Also in the 9 o'clock hour.
All right, we're talking about your credit score a little bit later on today. You know, it can affect everything from your mortgage rate to opening a credit card. Dan, the mortgage man, is in studio this morning to answer your questions about credit scores, what they mean, how they're calculated, how to get and keep a good one. Email us at goodday@kmaxtv.com. Put credit score in the subject line, and we'll try to get to some of those a little bit later on this hour. What's a good score? How do they figure out what it is, and how can you improve it? Some people are getting emails from want to know how fast you can improve your credit score. Let's say if you filed for bankruptcy, what's the best way to get more points in a short amount of time? I want to buy a house, all that kind of stuff. So let us know. We'll see if we can't get to them.
Yeah,
Really
it can be very confusing, all of that.
Exactly.
Getting the score up and how long it stays on your record, all that stuff.
What's your FICO? What's your FICO score? Coming up new at 9 this morning.
Before you close your next credit card account, you might want to know how it affects you buying a house. Dan, the mortgage man, is here this morning. We'll chat with him next.
What's the next one?
I don't know. Well, if you're in the market to buy a new home, your credit score can either hurt or help you when it comes to getting a loan.
There are certain things you should never do and certain things you should always do. Joining us this morning is Dan Foster from Great American Mortgage, also known as Dan the Mortgage Man. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you guys
It's
today?
amazing how this little number affects so much of our lives when it comes to our money.
It's really probably one of the most misunderstood things out there, and there's really not a common level education course where you can go out and take credit scoring 101. Some people know a little bit about it, some people know a lot, but it's just confusing more and more every day. And unfortunately, the credit bureaus really don't make it any easier for all of us.
Right. There are 3 of them out there.
There are. There is Experian, formerly known as TRW. There's also TransUnion and Equifax. Those are the big 3. And it's important to note that they just keep track of all your accounts and your actual data. They're not the ones that generate the score. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but they have their own scoring product, but it's not known as a FICO. And a FICO is the standard in all lending of any kind. It's called Fair Isaac, and they're the company that came up with the computer programming algorithms and models to predict risk, because that's what it is. It's a risk score.
Right.
And there's lots of risk scores used everywhere, but FICO is the only one that really matters.
And on your FICO score, the higher your number, the lower your credit risk. Like a perfect score
Correct.
is 850, which no one has.
Well, they say
right?
300, 850, and it's just not real. They don't have it. You know, if you're about 90 years old and you've had credit forever, you can probably get to an 817. I've seen it happen a few times.
817?
An 817.
Wow.
I've never seen an 850,
Wow.
so people out there with high credit scores feel bad and they just don't understand it. This is the anatomy on this graphic of a FICO score. What is the most important thing in calculating your risk score? As you can see, the largest piece of the pie is the payment history. How you pay is everything.
Yeah.
Never be more than 30 days late, people. Just, you have 30 days even.
Right.
Pay a late fee. Just don't be over 30, because they don't report it if you're not over 30.
Oh, good.
On a mortgage, that's a good tip. On any kind of credit you
Very
have,
good
if you pay 15 or 20 days late, they may adjust your rate on a credit card, but
Yeah.
it won't impact your credit. So just pay on time.
Does it
It's
help
the
to
biggest
call in
secret.
if you are late? Does that help at all or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're a day late, sometimes they'll give you a grace on it, and maybe they won't report, but sometimes that nice person on the phone is different from the data reporting department
Yeah.
that plugs
And then
into
your
the bureau,
payment
so.
history, how is that different? Oh, the payment history is the
Yeah, the
first one.
payment history is the first one.
Amounts
That's
owed.
35%. The amounts owed is 30%. What are your balances? This is a big one. If you have a little $300 fashion bug credit card and you're out charging to get that 10% off discount.
Yes.
Yes, and you
Oh,
have
yeah.
and you have $300 on under 285, and you're like, that's no big deal. I make $5,000 a month. I could pay that off. Well, the bureau doesn't look at it that way. It doesn't calculate your income. It looks at each account. So a $300 fashion bug credit card with a $275 balance is just like a $10,000 jumbo credit card with a $9,500
Really?
balance.
Shocking.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
That's
They always
horrifying.
They don't look at
sell
your
it to
income.
you like
They don't look
They
at your
don't- I
job
did hear
history,
that.
your income.
They always
don't
say,
look at
"Pay
your
it off at
marital
the end of the
status.
month."
They don't look
Oh
at
my
how many
gosh.
houses you own or if
Wow.
you lived there 10 years. They don't look at that stuff.
Well, look at
so.
the other ones real quick. How long you've had credit is important. New credit and the kinds of credit in use, too, are all things you have to consider out there. All right, you want some questions from viewers?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, let's take them.
All right. It says, I bought a home in October of '05. I had a horrible time getting a loan because I had been debt-free for 15 years. I had to put 30% down because I was considered a bad credit risk because I was debt-free. Please tell me why a person with no debt is a bad risk.
Who wrote in?
Lori.
Lori, to give you the answer to that question, if you don't have anything on your credit or activity in the last 6 months, you will not generate a credit score. So you have to actually use your credit or you'll lose it. It's almost like working out. If you don't use your muscles, you're going to lose that. So you could be paying by cash, you could be very secure and rich and debt-free, but if you don't have any activity, be it a charge card, an auto, or some small thing on your credit, you're not going to generate a score. And in that case, a no score or a low score can end up causing you to, I guess you had to put a lot down, 30% down. 30% down.
Right,
so the good news is she'd have good credit by now and could get the best rates out there if she
Good.
were to refinance that now, because now she has over 6 months.
Here's
since
someone with
October.
fairly poor credit. I have a FICO score of 600 or so. Been paying off old bills from your past. The score is going up slowly. What's the best way to get, well, a higher score, I think is what they mean, in the shortest amount of time? I want to buy a house.
Well, I would say the biggest thing is to go over your credit, because 4 out of 5 credit profiles have errors on it, and the errors can be gigantic. Often it can be the high limit not being reported. So if you have $2,000 on a credit card and they don't report the limit at $10,000, where you're at 20%, let's say they report $2,000, because some of them put the highest you've ever had on it. Well, that's 100%. Also, old accounts like an old collection or a late payment, sometimes those can be sold or reassigned, or I hate to use the word regurgitated, but they do. They'll come in multiple formats and duplicates on your credit. So that's the biggest thing. Otherwise, pay on time and make sure you keep all your revolving balances about 30%. They say below 50%. You know, the actual formula is kind of like the KFC chicken recipe. You know, it's really, really top secret. This is for the average person, the chart that we talked about, but it's really, you know, top secret. Your inquiries, they take about 5 points. That's a big misnomer. Everyone thinks that'll really hurt your credit. You've got to be smart about it, but it's usually no more than 5 points, so it's not as big a deal as you make it.
Tony, we could talk about this all day.
What other questions? Do you have any other ones?
We're out of time.
Okay.
We're out of time, but we'll have you come back for a segment on just your credit score and how to improve it.
We could really do a few different topics on it.
All right,
So.
very good.
Thanks for having me. Yes, it was a pleasure.
Well, can cleaning just 20 minutes a day make your home spick?